بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is our program Spirit of Values, and today we will discuss the value of innovation. Let's start thinking first, what are the main objectives that we want to achieve in discussing the value of innovation? So the main goal is to understand what are the importance of the value of innovation in a world of a very continuous, rapid change. And to achieve this, we will look for several concepts and discuss it. Understand the concept of innovation. What is the difference between innovation, creativity, excellence? All of these terminology are very important to understand in the concept of innovation. What are today's challenges and the need for innovation? And then we can introduce what we call the models of change with some practical applications in order to understand the importance of this value. So let's start with the human terminology relating to the concept of innovation. Creative, innovative, excellent, clever, talented. If we want to discuss the differences between these, about being creative is the ability to think in a different method than other humans. So the idea of creativity, let's first introduce how our brains act once we have an information. And usually we have three main information system in our brain. Let's define it as MIS, which is the management of the information system in our brains. Here we have what we call the primitive mind, in which we are born with. It contains only 8% of information, containing the DNA, your characteristics, and your talent is born with you, as well as only two types of fear. This is the primitive mind. And the two types of fear, the fear of noise, because babies before birth are isolated, and the fear of dropping down because they are also caught in the brain, before birth. Now, after this, we come to what we call the pattern mind. The pattern mind contains 88% of information and usually start by programming. So the born baby, the mother start programming. The father, the kids, the children, the brothers, the sisters, grandfathers, and teachers until the age of 25 approximately, we get the total information system in our brain. It's the pattern type of the brain. However, we still have 4% of information. It's the creative mind. Once they define creativity as thinking out of the box, they mention that the pattern mind acts like a box that usually you rely on the information in the pattern mind. In order to think differently in a more creative way, we have to think out of the box. So creativity is thinking in a different way than the pattern. What about innovative, guys? And what is innovation? Creativity is a process. We follow a certain process with different tools. Innovation is the output of creativity. So being innovative is to bring something new, whether a standard, a service, a product. So the end of continuous creativity as a process will end with innovations. Being excellent means the effort that you present. If you do and give lots of effort, you can be excellent in getting what we call the results. So some people are creative, but they are not innovative. They just give ideas without being able to translate the idea into an action or get the result. So maybe they lack the effort, or maybe they lack the resources. What about cleverness? Being clever is having a certain competency in the way of thinking. Some people are more creative than other people, but also some people are cleverer than others. So being clever means you have some abilities in the brain that will help you to act with the information. However, talents, and we have one or more than one series in this about the talents, you can get back to it. Being talented means that you are born with a certain type of intelligence that will help you to be innovative using the creativity tools. So the idea is anyone is born talented, but some people, they don't invest in the talent. If you invest in the talent using several creativity methods and tools, you will get innovation, but you have to give the effort and be excellent. So these are the terminologies related to the concept of the brain. Because of this, they come to define several types of thinking relating to this concept. We have mathematical thinking, logical thinking, critical thinking, positive thinking, emotional thinking, creative thinking, innovative thinking, and strategic thinking. Thinking is the abilities. What about mathematical type of thinking? Those people who use analytical and use numbers in their research, for example, to get solved for a certain problem, they are using the mathematical approach of thinking. In universities, in schools, in research, we rely totally on mathematical thinking. We get an information to study a certain phenomena, we go through statistical approaches, we analyze. This type of thinking is called mathematical, usually used in research. What about logical thinking? Logical thinking has to do with what we call cause-effect thinking. Cause-effect. So logically, if you get a certain effect, because you have certain cause. So causes will bring effects. This type of thinking is thinking logically. Critical thinking, you start thinking in order to reach what we call the perfectionist. So you criticize something in order to improve it, to develop it. This is called critical type of thinking. And this type of thinking also we can use whenever we have new issues, a new service, a new product, even a new article. We make what we call critique in order to modify it and improve it. This is type 3 of thinking, critical thinking. What about positive thinking? Positive thinking is the way that we think whenever we have a problem, we have an opportunity. If you think positively, even in crisis, you can create opportunity. This is type of being optimistic in your thinking, and even from your problems, you read opportunities for developing. This type is called positive type of thinking. Emotional thinking means that whenever you make a decision, you think of the emotions affecting those who are affected by your decision. So you here put emotions in your mind when you think. So this will give sometimes the passion to go. Sometimes we will think, what are the emotional impacts of our decision of thinking on others affected by the decision? And I mentioned the type of pattern thinking. Pattern thinking is your type of thinking relying on your brain, on information based on your programs, based on your experience in life, based on your 5 senses. You have a certain pattern of thinking. Creative thinking is to think opposite to your pattern in order to allow and open the door for new types of thinking. We start with creative type of thinking. And usually creativity will end with innovation. Innovative thinking means that you think of the process in order to achieve new ideas you got from creative thinking. And strategic thinking, using all types of thinking to read the future. We use it for future foresight and future forecast. This is what we call type of strategic type of thinking, reading the future. How can we think in a more different way than others and apply the model of innovation? It's called TLPFMA model. We start first with thinking. And thinking means we apply the different types of thinking. Whenever we get an idea, You start thinking logically in a creative way. And also you use certain pattern in order to reach a decision. So you apply all types of thinking in order to start the model of innovation. Then after you get the idea, you start collecting information. So you have to learn more about this idea. We can collect information from references. And usually we have different types of references, whether we can use books, texts, the internet, or sometimes interviewing professional people that they have such type of idea. So we go with them and we start learning more about the idea. Once you learn, you have, before going to plan, you set all the information you gather. So when you gather the information, you put it in what we call a mind map. But what is a mind map? To draw a mind map, and we always encourage people to use the concept of mind mapping, we start in the middle of the page and we draw a certain circle. And here we put the idea that we want to think and create from it something new. So we put the idea, then we start putting all the information we get about this idea. We can use different colors in order to let the brain focus, but here are all type of information we gather. As much as you gather information, you have to go and expand your mind map. Then after you draw this mind map, you start making categories. For example, you find 3 ideas that help you in an idea called, for example, I will use this in the introduction of my idea. For example, these 2 or 3 ideas are causes of the problem or objectives of my idea. Here are means or solutions or ways or methods. So we end with what we learn and gather as information, we put it on a small space in what we call the mind map concept in order to learn all issues about our idea. Then step number 3 in the model, we start the planning process. And usually we define the planning process by the word GROW, grow model. So what do you mean by plan? The plan, how can I achieve the idea that I thought of and get all the information about it, how to start applying the concept of transferring this into something implementable. So in the plan, we define planning using this word, which we presented previously in the method of coaching. First, G is the goals. G is the goals. What are the main goals and objectives of your idea that you think of and you gather information? So you set the goals. And usually goals representing the future that we are trying to achieve. But usually we have to start from reality, which represent the present status. So make an assessment of the present case, act with what are the future goals we need to achieve, then here we set options. By setting options, we choose different methods to apply the idea. And at least we should have 3 options. 3 scenarios should be defined at least in order to help you transfer from present into future. Then you choose the best of these options and start way forward. So this is the concept of planning. Step number 4, before acting, let us discuss about the finance and discuss how much money do we need in order to allow this idea to be a result. Once we consider finance, we have to consider the cost and the return. Once we discuss the cost of any idea, we have to think of several types of costs. Usually we apply a concept called life cycle costing, LCC, life cycle costing. Life cycle costing for any idea, it consists of first, what is the initial cost? The initial cost to start this idea, so we start with the initial cost. Then we add what we call operating cost. This idea will operate. So operation is a cost. How to keep it going? We need a maintenance cost to keep the idea going. And then we have a cost for development. So we have to think of the finance that we need in order to support the idea, and then we start marketing this idea to help in order to get a feedback before starting acting. We check the market. So check the idea by trying first to decide the target audience. Then after you market the idea in their minds, you start action planning. This is the model that we apply whenever we have a creative idea from which we need to get an innovation, whether a product, a service, or a concept. So innovation contains the two C's, the two C's. What are the two C's that we need in order for innovation to continue? We need first to collect all issues about the idea. So a channel of collection is highly needed. Then, once you collect the idea, communicate the idea. So by communication, we help to market the idea, then we move forward. But how can we test that we achieve? The success means that the idea at the end, this is the first I, is implemented. This is the second I, implementation. So by this, we apply the concept of innovation by applying a good idea, implementation by an action. We get to the concept of being innovative through creativity. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.